Hey friends, welcome to my channel, Heidi Sonboul DIY. In today's episode of Fun and Fast, I am going to be sharing how I made a Easter tomb for the resurrection from Dollar Tree supplies. Now let's get crafting. Our project is going to take 4 of these foam squares, a plaque sign. I had this one from a thrift store a while ago, but they have plaque signs at the Dollar Tree, and then 3 tubes of caulk. Start by taking your foam squares and you're going to cut the 3 of them directly in half so that they are about the same thickness. Once you've got those all stacked in half, we're going to start to build the wall for our tomb. Now don't forget, if you do have something that's thrifted, take off all the hangers from the back side. Now start by laying 3 of them together. And we're going to take a Sharpie marker and create the opening door of the tomb. I'm going to come up and then at a little bit of an angle and then make the other side being a little bit further over so it's a little bit thicker. Once you've got those lines in place, take your knife that you have on hand and go ahead and cut. Don't forget to remember which parts are you actually using for your wall. It's really easy to start to get mixed up with the pieces that you're cutting. So keep track of what you're cutting and what you're using for your wall. Now I'm going to use some E6000 and some hot glue, and I'm going to start bringing those wall pieces together. I'm going to go ahead and move on to the top part, and you can see here at this point those doors that are opened. When I start to put on the top wall, now I can bring that door together and seal it. Now I almost forgot to bring some glue in on the side of this one, so make sure you add in your hot glue and your E6000, and don't forget, like I almost did. Once you've got your pieces together, I still have the door open. I'm going to draw my lines and then I'm going to cut. And I'm also going to shave off the side so it has a little bit of a beveled edge versus it being really styrofoam looking. And I'm going to create some different rock bumps along the other side of the wall where the door is not going to be. So just take some pieces, play around with the foam that you want, and you can see here at this point I can now bring the 2 pieces together, and I'm stabilizing it with some dowel sticks. Now there is going to be a piece that's left over when you start cutting everything down. We're still with the 3 squares at this point. I'm going to go ahead and cut that into the circle for the door, and you can see again I'm kind of taking off stuff from the sides to give a beveled edge look, to make it look more rounded like a big stone door. Once you've got that cut, we're not going to attach it just yet, but you want to make sure you've got your positioning all right, because we are going to make sure that our tomb walls are secured nicely to our plaque. You don't have to do this, but friends, I really like to teach on my channel to take the time to go the extra mile by securing things with support stakes or dowels. So I just drilled 3 holes, put in some of these dowels that I cut down to size. I'm gluing them into place, and then I'm going to come in with some E6000, more hot glue, and then I'm going to put my stone wall on it at that point. This is going to make sure that if somebody were to pick it up by the actual tomb, it's not going to just come flying off of your stand that you have it on. It was kind of funny how satisfying this was as I was sliding it down and onto place. I don't have it here on the audio, but I actually kind of squealed a little bit because I was feeling pretty good about my project here at this point. I was like, oh man, it looks so good. It looks like the tomb. I'm so excited. So wiggle it into place, making sure it's nice and secure. And now we're going to add on the door. And the reason why we didn't put on the door right away was because we wanted to make sure it wasn't going to hang over to the side. That's why we did that measurement first. You want to make sure there's enough room for the door to fit on without coming and falling off, and the tomb to fit on. Now we're going to move on to caulk from the Dollar Tree. Oh my word, friends. This stuff has become my new favorite thing. I'm going to link a couple videos at the end of this video where I'm sharing all kinds of new techniques that I'm doing with caulk. I am having so much fun. I actually had someone leave me a not very nice comment and saying that I'm pronouncing it wrong, but caulk is the official way to actually say it. It's a French-based word, and in America we pronounce it without the L. I don't know how that happened, but it really is pronounced caulk. And if you look it up online, there's actually a lot of online video tutorials and things that you can listen to on how to pronounce it properly. So I'm just taking some water, I'm smoothing out the caulk, and now I'm going to go ahead and move on to the back of the tomb door. The reason why I did not add this in the beginning was I was actually planning on not putting anything behind it. But my husband, after I had let the whole thing dry and it was nice and prepared to be able to paint, my husband's like, you really should put something behind it so it looks darker in there, like a tomb. And so I heeded his wise counsel, and I'm really glad that I did. So I went ahead and cut with a 4th foam square piece, a thinner piece. It was about 1/4 of an inch, maybe a little bit more, like a 1/2 inch thickness. I added some more of the caulk. I added some more of the dowels to make sure it's on there nice and secure. And then I just popped that into place and then added more of the caulk to make sure it was all nice and bonded on it. Now, I've had a lot of people asking me questions if this stuff cracks. It has a silicone base compound to it. So no, it is not going to crack. It's not going to fall apart. I had a lot of questions in one of my last videos. This stuff dries really well. It has a little bit of almost like a rubber feel to it, but it's not super rubbery. So think about caulk in your bathroom. Like, this is the stuff they put around your sink. And then as we add paint to it, it gets harder and more secure as you go. So you can see here that I used 1 tube on the front of the tomb, 1 tube of caulk on the back of the tomb. The 3rd tube, I'm coming in and filling all around the floor of it and anywhere else that I feel like it needed some touch-ups. Now I'm going to take my white paint. Once the caulk is completely dry, we're going to use white paint and cover the whole thing first. This is going to allow it to harden even more, and it's going to be a great base paint to be able to add a little bit more texture before we start doing the next step. So paint the whole thing white. I really recommend this step. Once it's completely dry, you can move on to the brown. You can see that I've added some white, some sand, and some brown paint. And then I come back with a little bit more white paint because we're going for almost like chocolate milk or rocky road. You don't want it to be too dark. You want it to look like chocolate ice cream almost. And then you can see here as I'm brushing it on, that sand is starting to come through. It's bringing in that texture, which is so exciting. Oh my word, I had so much fun making this project. I like, words can't even express how much fun I had. And I will say it definitely took me a day to make because there was a lot of different drying steps that I had to just kind of be patient and wait. But every time I would do something, I would just set it aside and let it dry and then work on something else or do a chore around the house or whatever I was working on that day. So now I'm coming in with a lighter paint, and you can see I'm coming in here and I'm being very, very chunky with it. I'm not painting everything perfectly. We still want to see that chocolate brown coming out because we don't want to lose that. So at this point, you can see the 2 different tones of the brown. And this is where the rock really starts to come alive. You want to see those different layers of color. That's what's going to make it look like a real legit tomb, and it's going to be so beautiful on a table or a shelf somewhere. So make sure everything is really dry. You can see that I made it really clumpy in some spots, and I wanted the paint to be a little bit clumpier, and I just dried it with a heat gun. If you have one on hand, great. If not, you can always just let it sit there and kind of dry. Now I'm coming in with what I would say is a light tan color. I added a tiny drop of black to my brown and my white as I was making it lighter, and I'm dry brushing that on. Now inside the tomb, at this point, we're going to do a really dark brown, like a slate brown, black color. Went inside and made the inside nice and dark. At this point, once everything is dry, you can start adding the rocks. Oh my word. It is so much fun at this point because now you're kind of building this super cool model of the tomb, and what a meaningful craft to do for Easter. Friends, I cannot express how grateful I am for our Savior and the things that He did for us so that we can return home to our Father and pay the price of the mistakes that we make and the sins that we try so hard not to commit, but we're just not perfect and we're going to fall short. I'm so grateful for the atonement. And making this project really just had my thoughts just weighing so heavily on the price that he paid for us. It was just such a sentimental project. Once I had all of my rocks on, now rocks are going to pop off with hot glue. I wanted to make sure they were really bound to the stone wall and the base. So I'm going to come in with some matte Mod Podge, and I'm going to just lightly kind of brush around the walls, but I'm going to really make sure I add some around those rocks to lock it in. Now we're going to get that Spanish moss. You can see here that the Mod Podge was still drying around the rocks, and that's okay. You let it take its time. Don't try to heat gun that thing. Just leave it alone. Let it just dry, let it do its thing, and then just add moss in around where you feel like it would naturally want to go and grow between the rocks. Once you've got that moss all in there and the rocks placed where you want it to be placed, go ahead and pick up this little greenery stem from the Dollar Tree. It has almost like a desert quality to it with these colors, and just cut things down to scale size and glue them onto your tomb. At this point, it's done and ready to be displayed for this Easter season. I know this project was a bit of a commitment to make, but like I said, it made me really reflect our Savior. It made me appreciate the atonement even more. I am just so excited to have it in my home to celebrate this coming Easter season. I hope you will give this craft a try. If you have any questions, leave it down below. I will be happy to try to answer all of them the best I can. If you give this project a try, send me what it looks like over on Instagram through a private message. I would love to see it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and click the subscribe button if you're new. I would love for you to join my craft family here and visit with me in my craft room each time I post a new video. Thank you so much for stopping in today and visiting with me. And until the next episode, bye friends.